In today's video, we're going to quickly take a look around the city of Toronto and the GTA with regards to condominium prices for 1-bedrooms and 1+1s in the month of November thus far. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realty Inc. As always, back with another video for you guys here today. You can find my contact information with regards to my Gmail, my Instagram, and of course, my office information in the description box. Feel free to get in touch with me with any questions you may have with regards to anything discussed in this video, or if you have any general inquiries with regards to the GTA/Toronto real estate market at large. Lastly, as a point of order, I always say, feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Your support in that regard is greatly appreciated, but you're not obliged to do so. Of course, feel free to just watch. But if you happen to enjoy these videos and find them informative, your support in terms of a like and a subscription is greatly appreciated. Nonetheless, let's get to the point of today's video, which of course is yet another weekly condo market update. I think we're edition 30 or 31 at this point, wherein I'm going to go through condo prices for 1-bedrooms and 1+1s across the GTA, looking at mainly Toronto Central, Toronto East, Toronto West, downtown as its own area, and then also looking at York region. Now, this is based upon my own research. I looked at sold data in the month of November. So this is as of November 25th. And this was actually influenced by a question one of my clients asked me, which is, what's the disparity in prices between 1+1s, let's say in the east side of Toronto, for instance, in Scarborough, versus a 1+1 in downtown? So I thought, why not make a larger video looking at 1+1s and 1s across the city? So let's start with the data. Here we see on this graph that I created based on geographic location and price point for two different property types. 1+1s as indicated by the red and 1s as indicated by the blue. Starting out, the most expensive area for 1+1s coming in at $716,000 in terms of average sold price is downtown Toronto. This is contrasted within downtown with regards to 1-bedroom condominiums, wherein we're looking at $609,000 in the same area in the same time period. Downtown here is defined as C1 and C8. As always, I know I say this often, but if you're confused as to what these symbols and these letters indicate, feel free to go into the description box, click on the link, and you can find an interactive map with regards to the TREP codes that I'm using in this video. Now, of course, sticking to downtown before we move on to Toronto East, Toronto West, although you can see everything on the graph right now, but sticking to downtown to explain a little bit more, first and foremost, this graph shows once again the disparity between 1-bedroom condominium prices and values in downtown Toronto and 1+1s. It really shows the additional value a +1 can bring about to your investment, and of course, if you're an end user, to your end using experience, but at the end of the day, the value of your property in downtown Toronto. And this disparity between the prices, as obviously illustrated on the graph, but we can go based on the numbers as well, and I'll explain furthermore when we get to the other areas, is most pronounced in downtown. That is to say, if we take, for instance, North York, gap in value between a 1-bed condo and a 1+1-bedroom condo in North York will not be as large as the gap as we're seeing in downtown. And that's just an example. The same thing can be applied to, let's say, Scarborough or the west side of the city, in Etobicoke, for instance, let's say. The only place that actually comes close into resembling this gap between 1-beds and 1+1s that we are seeing in downtown. And once again, keep in mind, this is relatively a small sample size, right? We're only looking at November 1st to November 24th, but this gap nonetheless would sustain if we're looking at any other time period. And the only other area that can actually come close is possibly Midtown Toronto. One of the main reasons that a +1 in downtown Toronto is so much more valuable is because work reasons. A lot of people do purchase condominiums, especially condominiums of the 1-bedroom variety in downtown for work purposes. And given the proximity to work issue, a +1 is far more valuable as potentially a home office, or in certain cases, a den that's large enough to be converted into an additional bedroom. than other areas in the city of Toronto. Now, if we were to break this down further, we actually see, for instance, one of the most expensive areas within downtown Toronto for 1+1s is Bay Street Corridor, coming in at $734,000 for Bay Street Corridor in terms of 1+1 condominiums. Whereas other areas in downtown Toronto, other communities in downtown Toronto that are a little bit further away from the financial sector, the business sector, the entertainment sector, the more end user communities within the downtown Toronto core, such as Lower Portugal, there the average value, the average price of a 1+1 comes in the same period at $602,000. Now, that's not the exclusive reasons, right? There are certain cases where there were certain sales in buildings that have very low per square foot price in terms of condominiums, and that obviously carries down the averages. Those buildings are not really good buildings, hence the very low PSF prices there. But the point is, when we even break down downtown Toronto further, we see that certain areas in terms of 1+1s are far more highly sought after than other communities and areas within downtown Toronto. But overall, the overall average, as we see from this graph, is $716,000. Moving on to Toronto Central. Here, Toronto Central is excluding downtown, right? It wouldn't make sense for me to have downtown as its separate location and Toronto Central as a separate location, and then include the prices and data of downtown in Toronto Central. That would be double entry. It's not the best method. So for Toronto Central, we see the average sold price for a 1+1 is around $667,000. And in terms of the blue graph, representing the average sold price of 1-bedroom condominiums within the central parts of Toronto, coming in at around $585,000. And the same point we made within downtown Toronto stands with regards to Central, to less of an extent, of course. Although the disparity here between 1-bedroom condo prices and 1+1s is smaller than downtown, it's still much larger than Toronto West, Toronto East, and York region. And the main driver of this, as I previously mentioned with regards to downtown, is Midtown Toronto. Now, one thing you've probably already noticed with regards to this graph is the even values with regards to Toronto East, wherein actually the average sold price of a 1-bedroom condominiums, as indicated by the blue graph, is higher than the average sold price of 1+1s, more like by a couple of $100, really. Practically speaking, pretty much even, but on paper, in a dollar figure, a little bit higher. Nonetheless, they're even. So why is it the case that 1+1s and 1s are so close in value in terms of prices in Toronto East, whereas when we just went through Toronto Central and downtown, there was such a big disparity? The two main driving factors for this, and I went through every sold to establish this, is that these are average prices, right? In the instance of Toronto East, average is not the most accurate representation. When we actually look at the median sold prices, the median of a 1-bedroom is far lower than the average we're seeing here at $557,000. It's actually closer to $515,000. Whereas when we're looking at the average of 1+1 at around 557, the median is actually quite close to that. It's around 545 to 555. So what that indicates to us is that in this data range, in this time span, and once again, I went through every sold transaction to investigate this, we had actually a couple of solds with regards to 1-bedrooms that sold for higher than normal. So what does that mean? Penthouses and lofts that were quite large that sold in one instance in the building 88 Colgate's around $1,085,000. Once again, a 1-bedroom, not a 2-bedroom, but a large 1-bedroom, 2-washroom condominium unit in 88 Colgate selling for around $1,085,000. The second highest was a unit in 245 Carlaw that sold for around $800,000 to $900,000. Once again, a 1-bedroom, but a large 1-bedroom at that. Whereas when we look at the 1+1 solds in Toronto East in the time span, everything was compact. You didn't have these high-end units that sold in the millions or even the $900,000 $600,000 range, or even the $800,000 range. In fact, the highest sold price for 1+1 in the east side of Toronto was around $745,000. So for this reason, you see why the values in terms of 1+1s and ones, both coming in around in terms of average $557,000, are so close to each other. Whereas when we investigate the units that actually sold and look at the median, we see that the facts of the matter do not actually reflect such a even split between 1+1s and 1-bedroom condominiums in the eastern side of Toronto. Now let's move on to York Region, which is, in terms of surface area, the largest geographic location because it accounts for everything from around Yonge and Steeles to all the way to King City to Newmarket, to Markham, to Vaughan, to Richmond Hill. Of course, the quantity and the depth of the condominium market, although getting stronger and stronger month by month, is still far smaller than the condominium market with regards to the Toronto condo market. Thus, as a result, when we're looking at the 1-bedroom prices and 1+1 prices, namely in terms of 1 bedroom, we're looking at an average sold price of $564,000, and in terms of 1+1, we are looking at the average sold price of $633,000. These sold prices are based upon far less transactions than any other area we've discussed thus far. And in fact, most of the transactions for York Region in the month of November, like any other time period, whether it's year, 2 years, or a week, will be coming from Vaughan, Markham, and Richmond Hill, mostly Vaughan and Richmond Hill. Now, it may surprise some that in terms of average for 1+1s and ones, York Region is actually pricier than Toronto East and Toronto West. Well, this has to do with a multitude of factors. I will give myself a small pat on the back because on this channel for the longest time, I have been talking about the Richmond Hill condominium market as being one of the most undervalued assets in my opinion. But that also to a certain degree applies to Vaughan and to a lesser degree to Markham. The point here is one of the main factors is that York Region outside of the city of Toronto became a very desirable location for a lot of people. And although it is outside of the city of Toronto and it has a suburban feel, this is namely now talking about Vaughan and Richmond Hill, it's not as if there is no immediate access to transit, shops, malls, and restaurants. Very developed in that sense. So you get a feeling that you're in the suburbs with a lot of these condominiums, especially the ones that are right on Yonge and Richmond Hill. But at the same time, you have everything that you need within a large city. Another factor that's contributing to the higher prices in York Region with regards to 1-bedroom condominiums and 1+1s is that a lot of well-transacted condominium buildings in the city of Vaughan, in the city of Richmond Hill, are relatively new. Not to say there aren't any old ones, but when you take Toronto West and Toronto East as comparisons, you have a lot more older buildings that sell for far less due to their age and higher maintenance fees. Whereas in Markham, Vaughan, and Richmond Hill, yes, once again, you do have your older buildings, but most of the buildings that are very voluminous in terms of inventory, that have a lot of transactions, are within the 0 to 7 year age range. Anyways, let me know if you have any further questions. Where do you think the best area for a 1+1, let's say, is in the city of Toronto and of course in the greater Toronto area? As always, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate. You can find my contact info in terms of my office information in the description box. Feel free to ask me any questions via that contact info and in the comments. And feel free to like and subscribe. Your support in that regard is always greatly appreciated. As always, thank you very much so for watching. Stay safe and stay tuned. Thank you.